Why? Oh no! Why is this not? Oh no! Oh,
I am live and all I hear is oh no.
well,
Oh
because my thing is not showing up. I'm looking right now. Is that my? Why is my camera? It does this. Oh, there we go. It just was delayed. It just needed a little time. It just
no.
needed
Yeah.
time to
Sorry.
figure its life out.
Was it was on my stream or your stream that it was the issue?
I don't know. I think it was mine. But
Okay.
as long as everybody can see us both and hear us both, then we're golden. It's our
Nice.
golden years. Golden years.
Tell us who dumb. Yeah.
Who dumb?
It's
Most
me.
people dumb. Me. I'm the
me.
problem. It's me.
Oh, I have a kitty cat visitor, and that is going to possibly. Okay, you know what? You guys can hang out for a little bit, but if you interrupt too much, you're gonna be kicked out. Okay?
So I was just cattail in the middle of the thing.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be a little cat butthole pretty soon. Come here.
This to be slightly higher.
Wanna come on?
Does the chair go up? Does the chair go up? Does the chair go up? I feel like the chair goes up. I don't
Carrot goes down. Chair goes up. Carrot goes down. I was looking at that clip of my old on my page the other day, and I was like dying of laughing.
Wait, which one?
There's a clip on from like the Vulgar Science account when we were streaming, and it's saved, and it's from like obviously the like 2023 or something like that, and we were talking about grammar or something, and we're talking about the carrot, CARET.
Oh yeah, carrot goes down.
and you just said it with such and like
carrot
so
goes
emphatically.
Down.
Carrot goes down. Anyways, I was dying of laughter.
I forgot about that. That's some good stuff. We had some gold back in the days when especially, I don't know, we're at our finest when we're in person. I mean, we're great here too, but yeah, we really shine when we're physically together, which we were like a week ago.
We had a little, Vulgar Science reunion.
Rendezvous.
Okay. Rendezvous and the lovely city of Philadelphia. Sweetheart. Okay.
Which was my first time in Philadelphia, the America city, apparently. We got to see the Liberty Bell, kind of.
The city of brotherly love. And not to hate on Philadelphia, but like literally every time I've been to
Brotherly Love?
It's apparently, pretty sure it's the city of brotherly love. I might be wrong. Well,
what does that mean, though?
Girl, I don't know. Why is California called the Golden State? IDK, man.
I think it's
New Jersey called the Garden State? Riddle me this.
Why is New Jersey called the Garden State? Now, my chat isn't showing up.
Yes.
In the little chat box. Maybe it's because no one has chatted yet. Hello. 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 No. See, it's not showing up. What's happening? Oh, there it is.
Oh, hi.
Well, so for returning viewers, you'll notice that there's a different kind of look to the stream. I made like a little overlay thingy so that we know who each of us are and people don't have to carnival sounds. Yeah, but I also didn't really think about the fact that the chat words are black or white. I think you can make them black, so I'm gonna do that.
There we go. Let's do that instead. Whoa! Whoa!
But I think I just changed it.
I think that's
because I changed the font. I'm just gonna type the word font. Oh, there we go. Now it's back. At least now, I don't know. So, okay, when I was talking with people in my life about this episode and like we're talking about intelligence testing and stuff like that, it was one of the things that came up was they asked if we were going to talk about cognitive testing, and I was like, what do you mean? And they were like the kind that the president undergoes. And I was like, I kind of forgot that that's a thing. I assume that Canadian leaders and world leaders at large do this, but I looked up what cognitive tests they allegedly use. They use the Montreal something test.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Which is interesting. And I had no idea what that looked like. It's quite funny. It's also quite easy. Like,
yes.
It's
so
like distinguish between a horse and a fucking tie. I have a picture. I have it here. It's one page.
Okay.
It's one
Okay.
page.
Can you share your screen with me? I want to see it as well, if you have it. Yeah, because there's different types of intelligence tests, right? And performing really high on some are indicative of, like, you know, high IQ or whatever. And then, or, you know, when you get assessed for giftedness in school, you would also like do one of those types of tests. But then alternatively, there's ones to ensure that you're just like at a normal cognitive level. And if you pass them, then it's like, okay, you are like not like, there's no cognitive like issues that we need to worry about.
Okay, so I have it on my thing here. It's not super easily visible, but here, let me also try and share a screen with you. But will it share my whole screen? Because I don't need that.
You can individually share windows. It's fine.
Share screen. Yeah, let's do that.
Heya from the land of pumpkins, West Michigan. Call me Presto. I'm a writer guy of the science nature genres, not a scientist. Well, welcome in, Presto.
Yeah,
Presto
welcome,
Pimento.
Presto
I love that.
Pimento. What is happening? I don't think that I can share screen as well as I thought that I could, even though I did that the entire last stream that I did. It is not showing my window capture anymore. It's just not.
I mean, I can see it, I think. By the way, I just learned this and I saw
The picture was? Mm-hmm. Oh, it didn't show up on mine. Interesting. Okay, but it shows up on yours, Layla.
Well, I can see it. My viewers can't, which is the.
Can you share screen easier?
Actually, let me. Aha! I can. I'm showing it to. They can see it now. Okay. This looks legit terrible, but I'm gonna slide it over so it looks less bad. Okay, there we go. That's slightly less awful. Okay.
Yeah, folks, if you're not following both myself and Vulgar Science, make sure that you follow both of us, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, the MOCA. So it was showing. I can't believe, why is it so glitchy and weird? There we go. Okay, it's back. It just stopped being normal. Okay, it's not a great image, but
I love the technical issues are just pervasive no matter what. Like, of all the things, my mouse just stopped working right before the stream, and I'm like, my partner uses this computer every single day of his life, like, as if. Right. Anyways, okay, show me this Montreal Cognitive Assessment really quick.
Okay, so, I mean, it's on my stream, and then I think I've shared the screen with you.
Yes, and I can see it in my viewers can see it as well. So, yes,
it's a connect the dots, apparently. For question 1. So you go 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E. Okay. And then you draw this bed. So I guess that's...
Copy bed.
Copy bed. Draw a clock saying 5 past 10. And then you grade them on how good they draw. I'm assuming that they're looking for like an analog clock, because realistically... You could just draw a digital clock, but they probably want, they imply that they want hands. And I guess you would have to do the numbers like in the correct order and in the correct places. So that's probably also a bit of a memory test. Yeah. Anyways, you'll be
I was going to say, I feel like I am so bad. Like, I feel like we've all lost, like so many of us have lost the ability to read and or draw an analog clock. Like, it's honest, that would take me a hot minute.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we have an analog clock in our house right now. So, Hybrid Robotics, hello, welcome in.
Hello, welcome in.
I'm front. I don't know what that means. Guys, he got the best score. He's seen the other scores, and they aren't as good. You're talking about Cheeto Man, I'm sure.
Yes.
So, you also have to be able to name a horse, a tiger, and a duck. And you need to be able to read a list of words. Subject must repeat them, or the experimenter reads a list of words and the subject must repeat them back. And you have to do 2 trials, even if the first is unsuccessful, and then do another recall after 5 minutes. Apparently these are the words that they suggest. And I mean, I guess it's important to point out, like, though this is kind of like seemingly silly, this has obviously been validated, right? Like, this is a pretty common, popular cognitive ability test, not an intelligence test, of course. But I'm sure that these words went through like extensive pilot testing to make sure that they weren't too like specific to a region or
super like very normative. Yeah.
So like white being one of the colors that like most cultures have a name for, and tomato being a pretty ubiquitous food, school, you know, like these are like pretty obvious things. Read the list of digits and repeat them forward and backward. This is interesting to me because the backward digit span test is supposed to be one of the few things. Sorry, I forgot that you guys can see that and I can't see. It's supposed to be one of the few things that highly load onto like what most psychology and neuroscience research believes to be kind of true intelligence, or what we'll discuss later as the G factor.
Yeah.
The backward number span, so your ability to repeat a higher number of digits that were told to you backwards, is very, very highly correlated with generalized intelligence. Tap your hands at each letter. What does this even mean? I'm not sure what that must mean. At each letter A. See, how smart do you have to be able to read the fucking question, Alicia? Okay. So it's just recognizing the first letter of the alphabet. And then...
Yeah, so this is like pretty... Yeah, and it's also timed, right? So I think get a grip put in there that they're supposed to last about 10 minutes. So if it takes you significantly longer... And there are some assessments which are like similar to this.
Yeah.
That are... What's the word I'm looking for? Like there. So I have some other examples as well, but like that they'll take bits and pieces. So digit span is a very common that sort of recall aspect and like reprocessing of information. But I know, for instance, my cousin was telling me about this where she was getting her mom assessed, and they ask you just to like, you know, it's like literally what's in your vocabulary. So it'll be like, just start naming words with A, and then you start with like, most people will be like apple, and then you just like go from there.
Yeah.
But then they'll be like, just name animals. And I think most people will start with like cat and dog, because those are very like, you know, that's what you first learn. And then maybe some farm animals. But then her mom said hyena out of nowhere, and she found it very hilarious. But these are like, you're pulling like that recall aspect is like very relevant in like these like testing mechanisms.
Yeah. Well, and our chat here says hybrid robotics says they don't do well on timed things. Everyone needs to get a colonoscopy. And that timed things tend to make them panic. And I think that's actually super common, frankly. Like test anxiety is like very well established as a thing, and that's one of the bigger like comments or critiques of intelligence testing is, number one, to what degree are they testing your test taking ability more than they're testing for your actual intelligence? Because this was something that hugely blew my mind. Most intelligence tests fall apart, like their validity an ability to stratify the individuals that take the test into different categories along a bell curve falls apart if you take away the time limit, because most of the people can get most of the questions given the amount of time. So a lot of this is like, you know, how much are you able to do things under duress? And to some degree, that has a lot more to do with things that have zero to do with your actual intelligence. So,
Well, I was gonna say I do believe test anxiety as a like phenomenon is able to be sussed out in these types of tests. Like neuropsychological testing, also like you can get test anxiety diagnoses from that.
Absolutely.
What was I gonna say? Yes. Also, I think there's like it sometimes you have to be able to just also conceptualize what they're asking for, right? So for instance, if it's like a simplistic like for instance, what is the similarity between a banana and an orange, right? It's like they're looking for something simple, fruit, as opposed to they both have like a peel, something complicated, like they both have a peel that you can like take off, right? And so again, this example from that I thought was very funny from my my aunt was that it was the question was like, how do you cross a road safely? And it was like typically, like, again, and these are questions that they'll often be asking to children, right? Because there's sort of like some questions that are like used in adults and children to sort of assess cognitive aptitude. And it's like essentially they're looking for look both ways when we're crossing the street. Yeah. But it's like, what do you do if a car's coming? And if the answer just like, I guess I'll just get hit by the car, I'll just die then. It's like somebody is not able to like process like what is this person also like trying to get me to say, you know what I mean? There's a part of it that is also in play there.
Yeah. It's to the degree to which a lot of concepts of intelligence are really westernized and kind of forcing homogeneity in their answers. Like that's another of the things that I think is a really good critique of this is generalized intelligence and any of the major kind of like components of most common intelligence testing doesn't include creativity. And speaking as two pretty, well-established scientists that have to be creative about, experiments that we come up with and whatnot, I think that one of the hardest parts of our job and the hardest parts of being a truly good scientist is having that creativity and that kind of, critical mind for thinking about important, interesting questions in elegant and effective ways. And that just frankly is unmeasurable as far as I'm aware, though there are tests of creativity, I believe. But the degree to which people take that as any indication of intelligence is negligible, I would say. But.
Yeah, I mean, there is like cognitive flexibility assessments, but again, also like true jumping from like point A to point D creativity, I think is definitely like difficult to assess.
Yeah. Well, it's why AI can't do it, right? Like we talked about that a little bit in the AI episode, right? Like there's some nebulous thing. I don't know where it would be in your brain. I know that it's definitely like a cortical region, but like, where does creativity come from? Where does inspiration come from? Like maybe we could do an episode on that at some point, but like it starts to get really philosophical and we start to get into the what is art and what does it all mean kind of thing, like we've done most of the time, frankly, because it all kind of boils down to that.
I was going to say, we say that this is a science stream, but honestly, again, we get so philosophical sometimes. I'm like, we really like dig in.
I mean, realistically, psychology is the meeting of science and philosophy. So, I mean, if there's nowhere better to do it than right here with two psychology PhDs, right?
I agree. And I mean, psychology started, and I will even comment on this when we get further into the intelligence stuff, but like psychology started as just like people just like essentially philosophizing. Like when you learn about the history of psychology, it starts with like Aristotle and you're like, okay, well, they were like, they knew nothing. And so they were like, if humans know nothing, how do we learn? Right.
I just realized I fucked up my...
No, I'm choosing to watch the stream instead of going back to bed in the middle of the night. Chop.
Muse.
Hi, Muse. Welcome in. Oh my god, it's been so long.
Chop, he says. He's like, founder badge up in here. Chop, girls. Get to the meat of the meat of the argument? I don't know. We're not arguing, but I always wonder about bird songs such as the morning doves make that warning call that is just like a screen door shutting. I don't know that I've heard that, and there's morning doves around here all the time. A screen door shutting.
I am, yeah, I'm not familiar.
I mean, mourning doves are one of the most proliferous birds in America, for sure. They're like the ones that go, "Hoo, hoo." They say lots of people are like, "Oh, I heard an owl," and it's like, "No, you heard a mourning dove, my girl." But I dropped by more, but genuinely am sleeping now since my work starts around 3 a.m. Thank you so much for being here either way. Any we really presence is always appreciated, especially from a long time, chatter, an instigator, really, an innovator.
An innovator. Yeah. So one of the things actually I did want to say, so like obviously going back to like the origins of psych and origins of like intelligence testing specifically. So I am going to give a disclaimer. I actually TA'd a course, like an entire semester long course about intelligence, and it was taught by a neuropsychologist. And these are the people that assess people for ADHD, autism, giftedness, etc. Right. And so there was like the historical aspect. There was like the how do we do it like in-house aspect. But one of the things that was really shocking to me is how intelligence testing actually really started. It sprung out of almost like a eugenics movement.
I don't know that we even need the almost. I think it may have just.
I mean, like it is like shocking how much people are like, oh, this is for like the greater good, and then it was like just bias after bias after bias being introduced into how, and so like sort of again to add to this disclaimer that everything we talk about when we talk about intelligence has like. Oh, sorry to smack the mic. So much like there's so much cultural relevance that has to be considered, and like socioeconomic status is like the thing that most likely always like has the highest correlation with intelligence. Like if you take socioeconomic status out and still find a correlation with something with intelligence, that's how you know it's a real phenomenon, right, because SES is like the huge driver of that, right? And obviously that also plays into your education level as well.
100%. Well, and I think what a lot of we started talking about this in our like pre-stream thing, and I don't want to get into the dry statistics of it all, but the way that the more modern conventions of these kind of psychometric and intelligence testing things are evaluated is with something called factor analysis, which Layla knows. And there's kind of two different ways that you can do it. And one is hierarchical, where you add in a factor each time and see how much more variance in your group. So say you had a group of 1,000 people and you did a standard intelligence test, and that accounted for, say, 60% of the variance between individuals, just that test. So that's measuring, various like word processing and numerical abilities and logic and reasoning. And then if you take that and that accounts for 60% of the variance, and you load in socioeconomic status, and that accounts for a further 30% of the variance, that's how you can determine kind of the proportionality. Those numbers are just made up, by the way, so no one take any of that with any sort of like seriousness. Those were just like numbers. But it's important to do it that way and not to predetermine the thing that you want stuff to fit into, because you can essentially statistically fit any data if you do the right things and try the right ways. So that's how the eugenics and, problematic narratives about people of color and gender and all of that sort of stuff gets played into it is, you know what? If I fucked with statistics correctly, I could show that people of color are more or less intelligent. I could show that women are more or less intelligent. I could show that people from Connecticut were, you can basically do that at will. So it's really important to,
Sorry, I was going to say, I mean, there's the statistical aspect, and then there's just like the bias test aspect, right? So one of the big examples that I will use is like, for instance, so I got tested. So I got tested for ADHD back when I was living in Montreal, and I was very surprised to find that one of the tests was like a trivia test, but it was so US coded. It was like nobody outside of the US knows who Sacagawea is. I'll be so for real. And if you do, that would be very surprising to me. But it's very clearly like it's like US history facts on this test. And sitting there, and obviously me having that knowledge because I went through the US educational system, I was like, and then they had to obviously translate it into French. So I'm like, are you asking like francophone Quebecois people about Sacagawea? Like what?
Right?
Like, seriously? So that was, I don't know. It was just like very odd.
Right.
And I mean, so then somebody scores poorly on this history test, but they grew up halfway across the world. Maybe there's also, you're supposed to actually be tested in your native language if possible, but sometimes that's not necessary. Sometimes that's not necessarily possible, so there's always like a language barrier aspect to consider. And so you can score poorly on something that because it's culturally biased, right?
Yeah. It's something that I think is also really interesting. I was listening to, I think his name is Richard Heyer. He's like Richard Haier. I was listening to him on the Lex Friedman podcast. I don't know if that guy's problematic. I feel like he might be problematic. People weigh in if Lex Friedman is problematic. He strikes me as a whiny guy. And we sidetracked a lot of the stuff. But anyways, that's not what I was mainly talking about.
I do not know who this person is that you're talking about, honestly.
He's some podcaster. He's someone probably my age, white podcaster guy. Anyways,
American. Okay. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
He's a podcaster that's apparently like supposed to be like super neutral. Like he hosts people from both sides and he doesn't like claim any political affiliation, which I'm like, maybe that's problematic already.
Yeah. Nobody is neutral. Nobody's neutral.
Right? And if you claim you're neutral, you've chosen the side of the oppressor. Right?
That's not even a hot take. I'm just like,
no, that's the most, like, that's barely a microwave take. But the guy that he had on the podcast is like a very well respected, like trained at Johns Hopkins kind of thing, like decent scientist. And he was saying a lot of people anecdotally debunk in their minds intelligence testing by saying like, well, I know plenty of people that are really smart but couldn't change a tire, or like I know plenty of people that are really smart but they miss out on this one particular area. And he made a really good point that intelligence testing has these subcategories, right? Like the verbal reasoning and mathematical reasoning and general knowledge, which is the trivia aspect that you were just talking about. And lack of performance in any one of those sub-regions doesn't debunk the notion of a generalized intelligence ability being related to any one of those factors, unless that factor is negatively correlated with something else, such that the better you get at, say, verbal reasoning, the worse you get at another thing. That's the only thing that would kind of truly take that away. And that just simply isn't the case. All of these things are positively correlated with this generalized intelligence G factor, even if you really suck at one of them, which personally, when I took the GRE, my math score was like 25th percentile. My verbal reasoning and my other one were like in the 97 and 95 percentile kind of thing. So I like blew it out of the water on two of them and then just like shat the bed on math. And I think I'm pretty smart. So
I was going to say, I feel like math is also the one that most people perform the worst on. I feel like it's like, honestly, I feel like it's like culturally acceptable to be bad at math. I feel like that's like become a thing. And I don't know how I feel about that. There was a boomer part of me that's like, mental math is important. When the other part of me is like, we all have calculators in our pockets. Doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about like preparing for the apocalypse and stuff like that, Sputnik, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. You got a little dancing rat in the corner if you're looking on mine. Thank you. Welcome. You are now a normal rat. Yeah.
The rat goes like that.
The rat goes like this.
The rat goes like that.
I miss going on Doug's stream, specifically. Our friend Dougie Licious is a personal real life friend of both Layla and I's. And he used to have, specifically when I came into his stream, And if I typed something, it would be like, the rat goes like this. And he would just have like the little things like popping up. It's so funny. Rad rat. Yes, I love rad. Rad is one of my favorite words. My camera quality, again, looks like a potato, which I'm not.
It goes in and out. I think it has something to do with your bandwidth or connection, dude. That's part of it.
I mean, yeah, sure. What did I do to change it last time? I think I like went in and changed my video settings or something to make it like slightly less good quality or something. I don't know.
I think we like messed around with it for like 20 minutes and it was like really, you like turned off your whole computer twice.
Oh, well, that's when it got straight up unplugged. So I think that's part of it.
I do think you changed your like what is it, your definition or whatever.
Yeah, I just did it and it resolved a little bit more.
Fixed, yes, it looks better, a little bit better, and it went back, but
oh, well, that's not great. Performance issues detected.
Yeah.
Performance issues detected.
Alert!
That adds up. Yeah. Oh, stop
that's what
sharing.
she said.
I was still sharing my screen with you. Someone said that's what she said about the performance issues. Hysterical. I love that. Oh, that was just you. I thought you were reading.
That was me. I said that's what she said. Performance issues detected.
Love it.
Anyways, so actually, okay. So like, why do we even care about? Oh, you are full potato now. It's actually crazy.
I am. Oh no.
You're like 8-bit. It's so bad. Anyways, so why do we even care about IQ? Short answer. Capitalism. Always.
Yeah,
always. It's always what it comes back to, man. But yeah, so it actually, IQ correlates really well with income and earning potential. And then at a country level, those who have higher IQ have higher GDP typically as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, IQ also has this sort of cyclical thing going on where people who are like have higher IQ are more likely to be educated, and if you're more likely to be educated, you have higher IQ.
Right.
So it kind of just like, you know, this death spiral. Oh, yeah. Yes, I did. We both earned our doctorate. Yeah, thank you so much, Muse Clues. We got there. We got there eventually.
Right? We were almost exactly a year apart, I think. You were, it was less than a year because you defended in May, I want to say, and I defended in July. Yeah, because you defended just after your birthday, or just.
I defended in April, but then I graduated in May cycle.
Right.
Yeah. I literally defended I think it was 2 weeks before I absolutely had to last minute,
same.
The last possible
Same.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh God, why do I keep having so many issues with this chat being in a position? Because there's all these little things. Anyways, yeah. Congratulations. We love the fact that we made it. There was definitely some times I remember being at what's the taco place that we used to go to that doesn't exist anymore? Remember we went with our laptops and we got jalapeno margaritas, or I got a spicy margarita and you got a normal one. The little one that was by a Starbucks on one of the side roads, in downtown.
By a Starbucks on a side.
2 doctors, 1 brain.
You're not talking about Escondite, are you?
I'm not talking about Escondite. No, I'm talking about the one that was kind of cheap and close to campus. It was maybe it wasn't on Peel. Where was it? It was
You mean after you defended?
No. I mean while we were in school when we almost didn't make it, kind of thing. You were I think I'm quitting, man. And I was just please don't.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's happened many times. I'm so
yeah.
I'm really trying to remember what you're talking about right now because I did say I was going to quit many times. So.
It was earlier on in our degrees. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. It's just it was a Mexican restaurant in Montreal that we used to go to because it had cheap food on Tuesdays or whatever day of the week. Are you talking
about Winnie's? Because we used to go.
I'm not
and
talking
had
about Winnie's, but I do love when we went to Winnie's. That was fun. Yes. No, it's a straight up Mexican place. Fuck, now it's gonna drive me nuts.
Okay. Anyways,
we'll figure it out afterwards. Note to self.
I do not know what you're talking about. Okay, by the way, for those of you who were on our streams recently in the past, I think it was 2 or 3 streams ago, so a few weeks ago, we were talking about, I brought this up, and I feel vindicated because I said some shit out of pocket. I was like, I think there's evidence. Like, I think I heard that Gen Z is like the first generation to get like dumber, essentially. And I was looking for evidence to support it. And
because you said you read it somewhere and you went and you found the place you read it, and that wasn't
the place
legit,
the place that it became like popularized was somebody did like not a testament, like they testified in front of like a committee hearing, like a Senate committee, and they were talking about it, blah blah blah. So it was like this government like testimony essentially. But there is an actual article which I will share with you that actually shows. So there's this thing called the Flynn effect, and and so over time, am I a robot? No, I am not a fucking robot.
No.
Well, maybe I'm a robot. I don't know. 1 second. No. Okay, why do I have to ask if I'm a robot multiple times? Bro. Okay, and then I'm gonna share my screen.
Did you know that the origins of intelligence testing came from the same guy that came up with Spearman correlations, as in his name was Spearman?
Yes.
And
yes,
I didn't know that until researching for this. And I was like, shit. So when we talk about if something's correlated with something and we go out like correlation, not causation, it was this guy, Dr. Spearman. I can't remember. He had some white guy first name. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
So also very random, but Get a Grip just asked, is she a robot? And it just said that was a hostile message, and I had to indicate that was not, in fact, a hostile message. So, you know, apparently there's a lot of robots streaming that are offended by that term.
We call that clankers, right? We don't like them.
Yes.
Clankers.
Which we don't like them very much at all. Sorry, I have to share that with my own.
Yeah, I have to look on my doodad here.
Oh, this is chaos. Okay, so I'm just going to
wait, let's flip this.
So, this essentially, so let's actually look at what the Flynn effect looks like, because this is like slowly but surely
people will be getting smarter.
Personality traits, girl, what? Here we go. Okay, so this is like over time, people obviously have become slowly more educated, and therefore, and I need to share one more thing with you because there we go.
Yeah.
Now Alicia's stream can see it. Okay. So it's the Flynn effect is like our intelligence has slowly been increasing. As you can see, Asia is surpassing the Western nations because, of course, they are. China's up and coming. They're going to be the next economic hegemon, but we'll, figure that out. Y'all better start learning Mandarin soon. Right. However, from 2006 to 2018, let me get my life together here for you. This is the intelligence of, like, and it's stratified by education level as well. It's actually going down. And this is the first, it is like, they're calling it like a reversal of the Flynn effect. Right. And this is like the first time we're seeing this in, I think, history since we started measuring intelligence regularly.
So the Flynn effect itself is the fact that intelligence scores have gone up like 3 points per, year or decade or something like that for the basically since the genesis of intelligence testing, which is now more than 100 years old. I can't remember the exact interval, but it's frequent.
Yes. I think it's like generational decade or something along those lines. But they essentially like intelligence tests have had to be re-normalized and up-normalized for this. So these are like, okay, so this like the new average is going to be 3 points higher than we were expecting, and then they like correct for that. But now, for the first ever time, and there is no like true evidence for why this has happened. It's purely speculative. Of course, everybody's saying it's screen time, it's like social media, because this like 2000, like the really steep curve down really starts in like 2010. And that's obviously when all of these things really became normalized. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. And so people are saying Gen Z is dumber. And I mean, again, this is one study. We can obviously, and like, as we talked about, statistics can be skewed, etc. So we'll find out. But this, I feel vindicated because I actually found a scientific study which supported what I said in the previous stream.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I'm glad that happened though. Like, I'm glad that we were like, I don't know if this is true. Let's look up the source.
Yes.
Let's find out and debunk the source, but also where maybe that source had gotten their information from. And like, that is the scientific process, right? Because lots of our scientific discoveries, this is slightly tangential, but also I think related to intelligence, a lot of stuff that ends up becoming fact is something that was intuitive or anecdotal at first, right? Like, we used to not, call depression a thing or anxiety a thing. We said that women were hysterical and gave them laudanum. And then now we realized, oh no, it's not just ghosts in your blood. You have a real condition kind of thing, right? But it all starts with this kind of like intuitive baseline sort of thing, and us looking around and being like, people do really be seeming dumber these days. The science bears this out. But
so I just want to welcome Birdbanes in, and they came in with a take that I'm trying to process. So, are we measuring intelligence or knowledge? Education reformats how the brain processes information and how efficiently it solves problems. Hence, it's what the tests measure. Yes, I would agree with that. I think education allows us to like more efficiently understand and recall information, because we've talked about schemas and heuristics and this on the stream before. So I keep trying to say podcast, and I'm like, we're live. This is not a podcast.
I made it a podcast. I upload it to my Substack now. So
nice.
Okay, I will caveat that with one thing. So number one, the degree to which we're measuring education is kind of intertwined with the thing that Layla already mentioned earlier, which is that people with higher education tend to have higher IQs. People with higher IQs tend to get a higher education. And it's this like chicken egg thing that's really not dissociable from one another. However, it's incredibly difficult to train for the G factor, which is the kind of unifying factor that kind of brings together all of the different aspects of intelligence and is this kind of nebulous sort of concept. And no matter how much you practice memory castle stuff or, train in all these specific things, that can give you a boost in the short term. But because of the way these tests are designed to just straight up get at something that's kind of, the questions almost have very little to do with it. They just so happen to measure it. Like they're a very indirect measure of something that we still don't have anything better of a name for it than just the G factor, because it literally is just a generalized intelligence thing that seems to load onto a bunch of different skills. And it's very difficult to train for that. There's no evidence that you can train to up the G factor. You can curate various abilities, but at some point you're just, there's genetic components that make it so that like, you can't change those things. And so to some degree, you are as smart as you're going to get in a lot of ways. But
so I'm going to fight you on the genetic factors for 2 seconds there, because yes, intelligence has heritable aspects, but it actually is. And this is something that, again, I was in this class and we talked about it. And there's like the ethical implications of associating IQ or intelligence with genetics is obviously like you can kind of figure out why that's not a good thing to do.
Not good.
But for instance, I think like an example that kind of like fights against that is that so like sub-Saharan African populations are deemed to have this like very low IQ, like 65. Again, we can really reference cultural bias when we talk about that, but they also have like the greatest genetic diversity and as compared like than the rest of the world like combined. So I think we can if you want to go down this path of saying, oh, all of these like, Black people in Africa have low IQ. And then obviously there's a whole terrible eugenics, racist,
horrific
rhetoric that like can be derived from that. So we have to be very careful when we're talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I'm glad it's
that
very
you
much
clarify that.
Yeah. I think it's very much environmental factors. I think like as socioeconomic status is also highly heritable, right? Like generational poverty is like a real thing.
Right.
And so yeah, I think we can talk about like a lot of and I mean like race is heritable, and there's a lot of other factors that play. It's like stereotype threat. Are you familiar
Oh,
with?
absolutely.
Let's look up stereotype threat so we can get a clinical definition
Riddle
for
me
our
this.
followers.
Yeah, so I
Um,
think the important
yeah.
thing with thinking about genetics and heritability and stuff like that is that
Mm-hmm.
a genetics are not a predetermination when it comes to genotype and phenotype, right? Like, so if we go back to the way that we speak about genetics, you can have a certain genotype and display various phenotypes even with the same genotype, which is something that I think is really important in this scenario, right? Because you can take someone from an area that, you know, statistically according to the, you know, Wechsler intelligence, blah blah blah, has a low IQ, and you can put them up against someone else and ask them like, okay, how do you I hesitate to say something that I think a sub-Saharan African would be very good at that a Western person wouldn't be good at, because I think I might accidentally veer into racism. But you know, pick
Stereotype.
some. Well, yeah. I mean, even if you just take that out of it, if you, there's so many different types of intelligences, and again, the questions on an IQ test, though they happen to de facto measure this nebulous G concept, it's not because the questions are so good at getting at that thing. It's that we've tested so many questions and we found that these are the ones that cluster together when we do the factor analysis. But it also might be, how do you milk a fucking cow? How do you change a tire? They don't put those on that for practical reasons, of course, but that might also load onto this, and we don't have those in the test. So that takes away that opportunity to show that they have aptitude for something that does truly load on to general intelligence, right?
Agreed. Yeah. So Birdbanes has a very good question. It's how do tests even measure creativity, problem solving, memory retention, lateral thinking, etc. So we did discuss that creativity is like something that is not well described in the literature, or able to be sussed out super well. I think problem solving is maybe a little bit aligned with probably like a processing speed. So it is really interesting. So I have some like tests to show if you want to, if I'm cool to go down that path, unless you have something you want to talk about, Alicia. Okay, so this is like the constructs that we are. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna share my screen.
So if anyone's watching on just the Neuralicia channel, go over to the twitch.tv /vulgar_science to be able to see Layla's screen.
Yeah. So okay. So there's like,
but also share it with me so I can see it. Oh, I see it. I got it.
Yeah. So this is a PowerPoint. Literally, again, I was a TA, so this is what I'd be using. But like, so what if you ever go to get tested for like ADHD or autism, or giftedness or whatever? Like, there's a kids version, and then there's like an adult version. They have similar elements, but they're not 100% the same. So you'll be tested on like 4 main components of intelligence. So it's gonna be like verbal comprehension, perceptual reasoning, working memory, and processing speed. Interestingly, before I get into this, reaction time actually correlates with, and a lot of early intelligence testing was like psychophysical testing. So it was like, there's 2 lights that light up and you have to like quickly press which one. And so reaction time plays a bit into processing speed, but that also is not inherently an intelligence phenomenon, but it also affects some of these, right? So,
well, it's the
verbal
the light thing, if I am remembering this correctly, is one of the great non-culturally dependent ways, and non-age dependent, and non a whole bunch of other things dependent ways to get at something that approximates intelligence. Because you can do, like, if you have a set of 5 lights with corresponding buttons, and you tell someone to like do it as fast as they can, that correlates a little bit. But if you tell them, okay, hit the button that corresponds to the light that's furthest from another lit up light, and say you light up, say, lights 1, 4 and 6, then you would want to be pressing 1. And the reaction time to that kind of like slightly more complex but not culturally dependent thing does happen to load onto the generalized intelligence.
Yeah.
But not just straight up reaction time, because that has a lot to do. I mean, that's ableist, first of all. You have to be able to press a button. Are you stupid if you can't press a button? Of fucking course not, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways.
And so, again, a little bit of ableism in that, absolutely. So, like, I feel like the verbal comprehension stuff is definitely, like, this is when you're like, I sound, like, this person can sound smart, right? They, like, somebody might be more articulate in the way they communicate, right? Yeah. So, like, you'll like, again, these are legit tests that neuropsychologists will do. So they'll do like similarities, like what do these two words have in common? So again, like banana and orange, like we saw earlier, like, okay, that's two fruit. They might get more complicated though. They might be like, what does love and hate have in common? And like, okay, well, initially you'd be like, oh, those are opposites. But it's like, what do they actually have in common?
Yeah.
So like vocabulary, how would you define, like, can you define what is the definition of certain words? And again, like, you can think about this in like a lot of these are designed for children as well, right? So it's like how well is like a child's comprehensive skills, and then as you get like, if you have delays as an adult, though, you'll have obviously more difficulties with these. Information, difficult fact questions. Again, this is like the US trivia I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And then comprehension, which I don't remember specifically what that entails.
So I think the other important thing to mention here that I kind of forgot until I started like rediving into this is that when we talk specifically about IQ and most other ways that we represent like scores that represent intelligence, is they're not ordinal from an absolute 0. So there's no such thing as a person with 0 intelligence. That dead is that, right? That's, the only answer. And that's because IQ is represented as a percentile score, which you kind of alluded to when you said you have to adjust these averages as the Flynn effect took effect, or as the reversing of the Flynn effect is happening now. So if someone has an IQ of 70 and someone has an IQ of 140, the 140 isn't twice as intelligent as the other person, because just the way that percentiles work, it just means that they're in the very far edge of percent of people that score above the rest of the other people, right? So that's how we can design it for children, and luckily for people with differing abilities and stuff, because you could be like, hey, here's what people with certain conditions or from a certain region or whatever tend to score, and you can basically rank it along that. But anyways,
and so this is what's actually really interesting. I'll finish this up and then we'll get into like giftedness as well. But like, that's what's really interesting and difficult about testing people who are both gifted and have or twice exceptional individuals who have, for instance, autism, ADHD. Those are common comorbidities with giftedness, or other, like, for instance, some people are dyslexic and are gifted as well. It's because you have to compare not against like the age stratified, education stratified norm. You're comparing it for like against other gifted individuals. And sometimes those traits can mask, so they'll just kind of appear maybe average, even though they're like exceptional, like on the low end and like high end on different areas, right? So this is why we have to suss these pieces out. So these are, honestly, if you are like really into like puzzle games and like cognitive games, I can't remember, there's like certain apps that are coming out to like help people with like resist like dementia symptoms and stuff, that have a lot of puzzles that are similar to this. So it's like block design, so it's like they'll have like 3D blocks and you'll have to like, using the colors, like recreate the design. Visual puzzles, kind of the same but on a more like 2D scale. Matrix reasoning, so it's like, okay, so if this the part here has like 4 like little black lines, and then the next one has 2, and then this one has 1. Okay, so what is this one going to look like? So it's like trying to figure out what comes next. And then picture completion is just like, if I assign values to each of these like yellow or green pieces what is the equivalent. And so it's like they're kind of mathematical, they're like logical reasoning. And so that's like perceptual reasoning. Working memory, this is often where ADHD people struggle. Digit span, as we said, we come back to. It's being able to recall what was just said to you. And as somebody with ADHD, bro, I was so bad at these. It's like, okay, remember these numbers in order. Now remember them backwards. I'm like, terrible. Arithmetic, just like math, essentially. And then processing speed is going to be like timed tasks where you have to like translate different codes and that kind of thing. And so these are hitting on these like four main, there's like another one as well. Anyways, that's hitting on those like four main concepts that we kind of think underpin sort of intelligence as we know. And somebody actually mentioned in the chat emotional intelligence. So I think we could also talk about, you know, the Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences and how it's like been taken in up by pop psychology, like with a lot of fervor, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and when I was looking into this, because I remember I was in high school and we did multiple intelligences, and I was just like, I'm this type of intelligence, and I was like, whatever. Apparently, it's actually really useful still in like pedagogy.
Pedagogical.
But is it pedagogical? Anyways, it's particularly useful in those sorts of settings because letting, especially a child or someone in their kind of learning trajectory, I guess. And when I say early, I still mean people in high school and stuff like that. Letting them know that there is an option to not be conventionally intelligent or conventionally smart, and that there's different kind of like aptitudes that you can have that matters more than the fact that it bears no weight in terms of like psychological and neurological bases. Like there's just no evidence for that being a real thing, but that doesn't deny its utility. Right? Like it's kind of like, if it's not hurting anyone, it's almost like a horoscope in a way. It's like, if that feels good for you, I'm not going to yuck your yum. Like if it's not hurting you and it's not hurting anyone else, and that helps you, you know, feel better about things. I don't quite think it's the same. Let me just be clear, but like it edges towards that, right? So, but anyway.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I'm just going to like pull it up really quick. So,
there's also social intelligence, emotional intelligence, social intelligence, physical intelligence, and like outside of the Gardner multiple intelligences theory, creativity is one that we've talked about quite a lot already. How do you measure things that cannot be taught? Well, I mean, to some degree, that is what intelligence testing is aiming to do, is to get at this G factor, the generalized intelligence factor. Which lots of different things load onto.
Yeah, so I think like Gardner's theory of intelligence, I think, has been picked up, and like people like it so much is because it does actually have elements that are like relevant to right. So it has like this spatial aspect, it has logical, mathematical, and so we do like typically associate these with like what I'll say stereotypical intelligence, and these are partly measured in IQ testing, right?
Absolutely.
So it is like grounded in truth, but it also kind of like, there's pieces that are like personality traits, right? So like emotional intelligence, this is something as well of like, I completely agree, is like very valuable, and I like love to associate with people who have like very high emotional intelligence, right? Who, you know, I mean, this was something that I like still need to grow as a person, right? So like, I think it's a valuable trait, but that's, when I say trait, it's like very much a personality aspect, right? It's not it's not easily measurable. It's not, I'm trying to like think of like, it doesn't correlate with any kind of other aspects of intelligence, which is one thing Alicia kind of talked about, is like all these aspects of intelligence kind of correlate with each other, and they like all contribute to this like G factor.
Yeah, I think an important thing is that in the validated measures of personality, not like MBTI and stuff like that, so not the
Mm-hmm.
Myers-Briggs, but like the Ocean and what's the one that
Just gonna
starts with
keep
an
opening a
H? I
second
can't
window.
remember. But intelligence does not correlate with like honesty and humility factors of
Yeah.
personality. It doesn't correlate with open-mindedness either. You can have a very smart, very not open-minded person, and let me tell you, I would far rather interact with someone that's open-minded and not smart or even stupid than the opposite, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
to some degree intelligence is almost this is hyperbolic, but intelligence is almost rendered a little bit like it's been neutered in a lot of ways by the access to information that we have in Western society, at least, or in,
Yeah.
like developed nations. And so intelligence becomes a matter of like differing degrees of diminishing returns. Like, yeah, sure, are you and I potentially more intelligent than, our parents? I don't know. But like to what degree that even matters, I think is low, right? Because that's not
Mm-hmm.
something that I need to value in my day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking about that now as like a phenomenon of like no, so I'm going back to this like Flynn effect goes down. The Flynn effect reversal thing again. I think it's like almost that some of these like again, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about these metrics that are associated with intelligence testing that are indicative essentially of your income earning potential in a capitalistic society and your probably your
Absolutely.
potential for education which leads to a potential in earning income, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like if you think about it and like what are your all of these skills contribute to fields that are going to allow for like high career success, and then that's why creative fields are often like pushed to the side, right? So
Yeah.
um
So Rafael Iron Chef
yeah.
and hybrid robotics kind of are getting at this. Let's ask them to define intelligence, and I think it might be important for us to kind of like get a little bit operational on that and point out
Yeah, I
how
agree.
how not specific it truly is. When we talk about it from a
Yeah.
scientific perspective, Layla's been showing these slides on that into stream that show
Mhm.
these different kind of subsections of
Mhm.
generalized intelligence, which is the fluid reasoning, the crystallized
Yeah.
knowledge. So that's just general, like
Yeah.
learned information, like, what year did the United States become a country, or, what continent is Eswatini located in, or that sort of thing. Working
Mhm.
memory and processing speed. So those are four kind of major ones, but it's important to note that generalized intelligence is basically reflective of a whole bunch of different cognitive abilities and kind of a constellation and how they cluster together. So intelligence
Yeah.
itself is something that's really hard to measure specifically and hard
Mhm.
to define, I would say. But
Well, yeah, I mean there are like some scientific like definitions from years past. A lot of them are sort of based in like Darwinian like philosophy. So it's like our ability to understand and adjust to the world around us. So that's Westler. That's the guy who created those tests that I
yeah.
showed earlier. Ability to attend to, understand, and adaptively respond to our external environment. Again, these are kind of um, and then ability to process, manipulate, and use information. So these are
Yeah.
like the first two are definitely Darwinian. That third one is probably a little bit closer to how we kind of think about it now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, if you
yeah.
think about it from like, I mean, this is getting a little bit like esoteric, so I'll try and keep it brief. But if you think about it
Mm-hmm.
from a Darwinian perspective, and in a social species like human beings, or any species for that matter, there are going to be certain members of the group that serve different purposes. Like the a very gendered perspective would be, 100 years ago, women used to stay in the home and care for the young. And that is very evolutionarily valuable. And does that mean that they're as smart as the person that's going out and foraging for resources, get berry, avoid tiger kind of stuff? Like both are equally valuable, evolutionarily speaking, almost precisely equal, because you can't evolutionarily succeed if you don't reproduce and take care of babies, but you can't take care of babies and do that if you don't have resources, avoid threat. So, but those are two very different things, right? Like hunt, gather, stay, go, climb tree, hide. I don't know. Like, so to what degree intelligence is really related to like evolution proper? I don't know how much I could necessarily buy into that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're just getting. You guys like. No. It's esoteric. I love it. I'm trying to like. I'm like, how much of evolution has. How much of our life, evolutionary factors contributed to capitalism, right? And how does like IQ being an indication of your earning potential, essentially your education level earning potential, we'll call those similar concepts.
Yeah.
As a poor postdoc, I see the difference, but
right.
I think like, yeah, like I think like, I mean, I know it's hard. I don't 100% subscribe to it. And I think that like, again, because a lot of these phenomenon were rooted in eugenics movements, and we know how these can be like, I have like, let me go find it in my like notes, but there's, a lot of people trying to be like, oh, the size of your head circumference is like, when people try to get to sort of the biological basis of intelligence.
Yeah.
This is where like sex differences that are like biased sex differences come into it, right? Because women are have smaller frames typically on average, right? So the circumference of our head is smaller on average, which means in a world where we're talking about, head circumference is related to intelligence, we're trying to get biobehavioral, like women are gonna be the dumber sex, and like I obviously don't agree with that. And so again, like there's a lot of, I'm trying to you vamp for 2 seconds while I look for that note really quickly.
Sure. Well, Hybrid Robotics says I wear a hat so my IQ will not leak out. So smart strategies are around.
Love it.
I love that.
Love it.
Fitness does not always lean on intelligence or physicality. It's always situational depending on what is needed. If you survive a calamity and find a mate, your genes get passed down. Yeah, and I think Birdbane said that is kind of what Layla was alluding to earlier when she says that adapting to the world around you is probably the most kind of fair, parsimonious, easy to access and understand and true valuation of what I would endorse as intelligence, because the degree to which you need to do that doesn't change on the basis of your situation. If your situation requires you to tend to your eggs as a bird or something like that, and other bird has to, like tiger has to go eat gazelle, like those are two very different things, but it is about them adapting to their situation, because tigers bear live young and have to feed them with gazelle, whereas birds have to sit on egg. But both of those are serving the evolutionary imperative of pass on your genes, and the intelligence factor is the degree of success that they have to adapt to the situation that they find themselves in, like facing migration, etc. So Old Man Felonious, welcome in. Sorry, so I scrolled a fair way up the chat, but Birdbane's actually had like a really good note previously, which I think is relevant. So on the subject of education, some teaching methods are more easily absorbed by some types of students. Different students perform with unorthodox knowledge absorption. So that is the one thing I think that theories of multiple intelligences has really had a positive influence on society. Like I like anybody who says like I have naturalistic intelligence and they like can keep a lot of plants alive. I'm like, cool, like that's okay. You're go
also
off, green thumb, grow me a carrot.
You're also an Aquarius, but like, but I know
she reads me to filth. No. With my plants in the back. Don't look at them. Don't look at my babies.
But I mean, yeah, like for someone who says that, I'm a visual learner, like I completely agree with that. Okay, being able to have that that knowledge. And I think there's a lot of self-knowledge that comes with that, of like, okay, this is how I absorb information better. Like what kind of learner
but that's
you
the
are,
adapting
right?
to the situation that you were talking about before,
Yes.
which services this kind of higher order degree of general intelligence that is like, okay, is intelligence knowing the type of intelligence that you allegedly have and the way that you acquire knowledge and retain knowledge? And I think to some degree, yeah, that's exactly what I would like to categorize as intelligence. But as you said, a lot of the reasoning that we have these standardized tests like SATs, ACTs. In Canada, we have provincial, testing in the various like math, science, social studies, language arts, that sort of thing. That's very similar, and GREs and stuff to get into school, or MCATs and LSATs. That are more domain specific, but all of this is to decide who gets access to what resources and how, and to be able to justify that on a piece of paper to someone when they demand receipts for where their tax dollars are going and stuff like that, right? Or where the university's money is going. Like if you start giving, college positions to the bottom 25th percentile of people testing on an SAT, the universities would riot. The donors, the funders, all of that, it would go very poorly, right? So it definitely services a capitalistic kind of endeavor.
Yeah, I think like I definitely am not like pro this like, oh, normative IQ beep bop boop bullshit. I think that like for me, I look at it be that the beep bop boop.
Sorry.
I think of it like from like a personalized medicine take, right?
Yes.
Of like if we do these types of tests and we can assess when somebody, for instance, like I can't, like for somebody who has dyslexia, who's like a very like, for instance, they would be a gifted student, and but they are, they literally are having difficulty reading because of like a neurological disorder. I like that would be like, that would be so upsetting to me. And so it's like being able to like cater to those individuals and like their needs, and like especially in a school setting, but preferably in like a life setting, is I think sort of like the inherent value in some of these tests and these mechanisms, right? Is be able to like give people like a step up, a hand up, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah. I mean, if it is indeed used for that, which is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean,
I feel like it's not.
I mean, our standardized test probably not. But I mean, SPED, like special education, is it SPED? SPED, is that derogatory? That's not derogatory, is it?
Special education? I feel like
it's just short for special education, right? Okay.
If someone knows the answer, please share it in chat. We want to be inclusive and non-discriminatory to the greatest ability that we possibly have. Excuse me?
I have heard people call that in a derogatory sense.
Oh, okay. So reporting live, people have been called SPEDs, and that's derogatory. So we'll just go ahead and call that a slur. Just be safe. But special education or curated educational programs for people with differing abilities, I think, is something that, these sorts of tests allow you to identify certain subpopulations that need different kind of access to care, right? Like much like, okay, you need Braille school for people, like there's schools that are specifically for people that have limited to no vision, and they have just a different method to get to the same information. And I'm sure that those individuals probably had the same bell curve if you tested that specific subpopulation of intelligence across that specific group of people, that they would have, people on the low end and people on the high end. And that as long as they had means to the information and, that sort of stuff, that it would probably bear it out. So to that degree, I guess testing does identify at risk or in need groups. If we're trying to throw people a bone here at the old standardized testing world.
Well, I was gonna say it also identifies, and I 100% think this, being a gifted kid growing up, I think gifted education is also special education. Like that, I don't think that's a very hot take by any means, but like, I think that there are children who, and again, now realizing that I was also ADHD, I like look at that and I'm like, okay, like being pulled out of class and being given a space to essentially do like, and honestly it was like very creatively focused from my recollection of like elementary school, like gifted education. Like it was, we would do these things called doodles, essentially, where we were given like a white sheet of paper that had just sort of like a random sort of line drawing, and we had to create an entire image around this line drawing, and we had to do
they do that
we
in
did
art
them on
school
like a,
still.
okay,
That's cool.
and we did them on like a monthly basis, but then we had to like essentially, there had to be like symbolism, and we had to have all these other elements that were like involved in it, and we had to have a title in there. And it was, I like, that's like a core memory of mine always. And I of course I always waited to the last minute to do them, and I was always struggling with them at the last second. Classic.
She has ADHD.
No, never. Yeah, but I think like being put, like, I was pushed essentially. Like somebody was like saying, you know, you need, like, you are, I don't know, this is going to sound like kind of shitty, but like you're performing at a higher level than like other individuals and students in your class. And like you need like a sort of specialized education program, a SPED, to like essentially sorry, I'm reclaiming and I'm saying no.
You know what? Go on.
And
yeah, accommodations are important, right? Like that's something that now is happening in universities at a way higher degree. People that have test anxiety, you don't need to even be diagnosed with anything. I think for most of the universities that I'm aware of, to be able to get access to special accommodations for like test taking, or, you know, if you have vision impairment, to have someone to read you the questions and you answer them and stuff like that. But I mean, just because they have that sort of accommodation at a place of higher learning that's already only available to a certain subsect of people doesn't mean that you have access to that to study or to live your day-to-day life, right? So like, I mean, it's, you know, in some ways a bare minimum, and I'm glad that those things exist, but you know, it's so scraping the bottom of the barrel for you know, supporting people of differing things, rather than ranking us on, you know, an IQ scale and adding evaluation to that. Like, because go ahead, stratify us and quantify us and categorize us, but it's what you do with that categorization. I'm fine to say that I lack mathematical reasoning abilities. I frankly don't care. But if that meant that they weren't going to allow me into graduate school when I know that I'm a really good fucking scientist, that would be a hardship for my personal life. And I think it would have been a hardship for, you know, the people that have been improved by my science.
Okay. Sorry, there's a couple things that I want to talk about in this chat that is like, I'm geeking. So, okay, Birdbanes was saying, I wonder what test measures witticism. And I would say that wittiness comes from, it's quick thinking and it's recall, right? Because witty jokes typically, like if you think about like a classic comedy special, you're pulling like a callback, for instance. There's a lot of like recall, there has to be relevance there. So I think there are aspects that are measured sort of in processing speed, obviously, like you have to be quick with it. So I think there's pieces of that are measured in like intelligence testing, in my opinion. And then Raffle Iron Chef said, if what was it? I've been told not everyone can hear electronics. Apparently that is only a lucky few. And that, bro, I, as a child, I was like, I genuinely thought I had a superpower as a young person, because I could hear our like cathode ray, old school cathode ray TV like buzzing when it was like on, but the screen wasn't on. And I'm like so shook that I'm not the only person that's ever happened to. A lot of.
Is that like a thing that people don't have? Like they don't hear it? Is that?
I apparently, like, very few other people in my family, like I don't think anybody else in my family was able to tell.
Huh.
I have a higher chance of ADHD. Yeah, okay.
Oh dear.
I know.
So, okay, because I have like wireless charger, and if you plug the wrong type of thing, like a non-sanctioned, like third-party pluggy thing, it buzzes, and I'm like, what is that noise? Like, I lose it. Absolutely lose it. One time, okay.
I was gonna say, this is also not the first time I've been called autistic on the stream, so, like, wait for my next diagnosis,
I'll claim neurodivergence, but yeah.
Yeah.
One time there was I think it was a raven in the forest that's near our house, and we could hear it, like, we're not very close to the forest, but we're, like, decently close, but, like, it's, 100 meters away kind of thing, at least. And we were sitting in bed, and it sounded like a raven, when it's doing a certain type of call, sounds just straight up like a dying animal. Like, it's like kind of thing. And so I was like, oh my God, something's hurt out there. Like, it was like 1 a.m. And I was like, we got to go do something about this. Bless my partner's soul for tolerating that. Cause he's like, okay. I mean, sure, baby. Yeah. Wait, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I think it's in the forest. He's like, do you want to go get flashlights? I don't think we have flashlights. And I'm like, I don't think we should go into the dark forest where there's maybe an animal dying. And then for a second, I was like, maybe it's a bird. So I brought out my Merlin app, and within 2 seconds, it was like absolute certainty it's a raven. I'm like, we're going back to bed. But it was because I couldn't tolerate it. And it only happened once every, like, I don't know, 40 to 60 seconds. So it was like a long enough span that it wasn't like, bleep, bleep, bleep. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah. So, okay. This is a great segue because so giftedness and twice exceptionality are, like, I think are super duper hot topics right now on, like, social media. I actually asked this when I was TAing the class. I asked the neuropsychologist who was, like, course supervisor, and I was like, do you have more people, like, coming in asking to be, like, assessed for autism and ADHD because of, like, what they're seeing on social media? And she's like, 100% yes. So this is it is actually having, like, systemic effects. But it's really interesting. And again, also, if you think about it, like, most undergraduate students are, like, kids that were, like, a lot of undergraduate students are, like, the gifted kids from school, and they, like, they talk about this sort of gifted, like, oh, I was gifted and now I'm just, like, sad and depressed because I'm, like, a normie now. But giftedness actually has a lot of similarities to, like, other neurodivergent, and I would say giftedness probably is just, like, a type of neurodivergence, but again, it's sort of this, like, more socially acceptable positive direction than, like, other neurodivergence conditions.
There's no like actual DSM giftedness thing though, right? This is like a more of a conceptual thing, right?
Yeah, it's I don't like sorry, what do you mean by, like, DSM? Like,
well, okay, so, like, being on the autism spectrum or having ADHD or other sort of, like, differently abled neurodivergent things is something that has some categorical diagnostic definition, but exceptionality, I think, or giftedness.
Yes.
When we talk about that, we just talk about, like, different than the bell curve, like a standard deviation or two away from the mean on whatever thing we're talking about.
Yeah. So this is the top 3 to 5% of the bell curve, essentially. Okay. And IQs ranging from 130 to 145. And I mean, you don't always assess IQ specifically to assess giftedness. Is often, like, so I don't know if anyone's familiar with, like, Stanford Binet testing, but that's often what they'll do to, like, assess giftedness.
That's the one where you have, like, 3D things and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I remember I did that once or twice in school.
I think I did part of one time, but like, because there's a brief, there's, like, an abbreviated version of it, right?
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, but individuals who are gifted almost always have similarities. Like, it's very rare for an individual to be gifted and then also, like, socially normative, like, sensory normative, all these things. It's very common for individuals who are gifted to also have, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not intricacies in, can't think of the word right now. Anyways, whatever. I'll figure it out in a bit. Idiosyncrasies. Thank you thank you for giving me the second. So intellectually, they'll be like very curious, but they'll ask a lot of questions, almost like in the independent, keen, observation, etc. Highly imaginative, gifted children will often play with like Barbies, imagination toys for a longer time than non-gifted people. So I remember that was something that like I used to play with. Like I was like 14 or 15 still playing with like Barbies in my basement, and at some point my parents were like, okay, Layla, like maybe we could give these up, it's okay. And I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm a little too old for this. And then like you're gonna be like a highly sensitive individual, like you're gonna have strong attachment, difficulty with change. Again, this is not individuals that have twice exceptionality. This is just like giftedness. And again, these are primarily when you're like young, right? So we're talking like child, adolescent, and then obviously you kind of like learn and you adapt a little bit more as you get older.
Right, and the masking effect of that, right?
Yes, yeah, okay. Exactly. So some of the psychomotor aspects, so if like people will have like energy surpluses, intense enthusiasm for things, which, has high overlap with like ADHD hyperactivity, sort of that hyperfixation.
Yeah, autism, domain specific obsessions and stuff like that.
Yes. And then heightened sensory input as well. So like seeing, smelling, touching, tasting, all that stuff is going to be easily overstimulated. And obviously that has like high overlap with like autism spectrum disorder as well. And the social component comes in because these kids are like, they're thinking and talking like an adult, but they have still this sort of social development of like a student. So they don't necessarily won't relate to their peers as well.
Right.
It's very common for them to have like bad handwriting, which I can very much attest to.
Yeah.
Have immature, contradictory behaviors. I'm trying to think of what else is here. Sorry, I'm just kind of like going through like my notes.
I mean, there's no science backing what I'm about to say up that I've looked up.
Okay.
This might be true, it might not be, but I can conceptualize a world in which if you are gifted in a certain way, that your brain has a finite amount of resources and space, right? So
yes,
if
I agree.
You are using most of your cortical activation to be really exceptional at being able to, pull knowledge about different types of ferns out of your ass in a way that literally no one outside of like a botany PhD would be able to, then gifted as shit. But also like that's what... As much as the brain does have like infinite capabilities, it doesn't have an infinite capacity to maintain all of those abilities at the same time. There's pruning. There's this kind of housekeeping that happens in our brain that's like, we don't use that.
Alicia, we only use 10% of our brains.
I know. I actually barely hit my 10%. I max out at 10 actually. I try to keep a steady 1 or 2%, frankly.
Okay, do you want to know where that actually came from? There's I can't remember exactly. Okay, so I think it's Florence et al. What they did is they were studying pigeons, and they ablated different regions of a pigeon brain, and because they saw no behavioral change, they extrapolated it to say that we only use 10% of our brain, which is like, bruh.
There's also like some MRI data at some early point in like the MRI world, I'm pretty sure, that backed it up, because your whole brain being activated all at once is epilepsy. Yeah. That's a seizure if your whole brain is happening at once, literally. Yep. But so you might be using, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, whatever percent at a time, but that doesn't mean you only use that part of your brain. Like, this isn't Lucy. We're not doing the, whatever. But I only use my amygdala. Just always afraid. Just at all times.
The rat goes like this.
The rat's like, ah! That's me. That's me. I feel that so deeply. I 100% use my one brain cell, or I use 100% of my one brain cell. No, you don't, because there was a time in which you and Rich and Dan would share one brain cell, or maybe it was before Dan. But anyways, you guys used to be like, I've got the brain cell today.
Yeah, just pass it around a little bit.
Yeah, can I borrow the brain cell? Great.
Could use one of those. But no, I completely agree about the giftedness thing. I think it's like, yeah, if you're, and it's actually becoming more commonplace, I think, to believe that like if an individual is gifted, they're more likely to be twice exceptional. So they're going to have some deficits in other areas, possibly possibly in the form of, you know, it might be social, motor, working memory, or obviously like there are like other learning disabilities like dyslexia and like dyscalculia. No, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Do you guys want a pup break? Hoon brought me her banana, and she's now immediately regretting
Oh, she getting picked up?
Yeah,
oh, we're getting picked up.
Oh, I'm so
We're getting
sorry,
picked up.
Hoon. I love you. I love you. I won't keep you up for long.
She looks so crazy on stream because her eyes like reflect the light back. She's
got her banana. She's very happy banana.
Crinkly minkly.
Crinkly. Some ASMR. Hi, baby. Everybody loves seeing you. You're twice exceptional. You're exceptionally silky. You're exceptionally soft. Exceptionally cute. Actually, you're thrice exceptional. You're smarty pants, too. All right. Gentle. Good girl. Here, take your nanners. I'll throw it. All right.
Bye, Raffle Iron. Thanks for being here.
Bye, Raffle Iron. Yes, thanks as always. The dog must be wondering why she's talking to a small box on the table for the last hour and a half. I mean...
Legit, though.
She does tend to, like, if I get, like, a little heated when I'm, like, talking on stream, or if I'm talking, like, on a Zoom call or something like that, she'll be, like, she'll squeak her toy, like, with purpose. She'll be like... Yeah. Anyway.
Like she's trying to get your attention, or she's
just mirroring. She's backing me up. She's like, yeah. You want to what? Squeak. I say to that.
A squeak.
A squeak. Exactly. I forgot. We so went off topic. I'm sorry. I led us into the depths.
No, we're just talking about like twice exceptionality and stuff. I feel like I feel like that's just like it's a very popular topic now, and I think it's so interesting because I think there's a lot of former gifted kids who are like realizing they're like, oh, like my needs were not fully met because I was like scoring well on tests. They just ignored the fact that like, and again, I can attest to all of this, that like I couldn't get my shit together in the morning. Like I remember I literally, like, I look back on this, I'm like, how did my parents not think that something was, like, well, I think they did think something was wrong with me, they just didn't do anything about it. Yeah. For instance, I had, when I was, like, in first grade, trying to get myself ready in the morning, I would literally have, like, there was a printed thing of, like, all of the things that you do in the morning. Brush your teeth, brush your hair, put on clothes. And every morning, there was no learning involved. Every single morning, I would go into the bathroom, do one thing, come back, read the thing, go back to the bathroom. And it was like weeks, months, years of this that I like could not learn how to have like a morning routine, which is, wow. I'm like, what? I'm like, did my parents just thought that was normal, apparently? Like, what?
Well, I mean, you turned out okay in the end, so I feel like...
I guess so, you know, I just overcompensated.
In regular life still to this day, so...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You saw me, like, whip out my, like, big-ass agenda. I was just, like, writing things.
Multiple times in
my chaotic handwriting, but yeah.
But...
No, I've... What is...
Oh, Dan was telling Hoon already, easy. She's shaking her toy. She's upset that I picked her up.
Yeah, I feel like I when we talk about like gift, like there's all these like, you know, social media, like former gifted kid, ADHD, autism stuff. I'm like, I feel very seen when they talk those conversations, but
I'm not entirely sure that like social media is helpful in more
Absolutely
than it's
not.
harmful in terms of like people. Maybe we should do a whole ass stream on that, because like on the one hand, finding your people, finding your group, is something that's like really valuable. Feeling not alone in your mental health journey is really valuable, but because of the lack of adequate actual care that exists, if you go and self-diagnose as whatever the fuck, and then start treating, I'm putting heavy air quotes on that, self-treating by like watching some TikTok influencer about, you know, their autism journey or whatever. And that's not meant to like discredit any of these people's like lived experience, but there's a very different kind of flavor to self-diagnosing, self-determining, all of these,
Yes.
you know, proper avenues of dealing with something that can be very validating of a very harmful approach, I think. Right?
Yeah. I definitely think that like social media, would allow, it's good for like acceptance, right? It also can lead to perpetuation of like over justification, right? Where it's like things that are not healthy is not the word I want, like are maladaptive end
Yeah.
up sort of being normalized, and it's like, no, we should still, maybe just because like we have these things and we
Yeah.
identify with these things doesn't mean that we should, you know, like just like accept that. We should like be like, okay, like this maybe still isn't very like good for me and I should like try to like work to cope with that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Sorry, there's a conversation going on that I'm interested in the
Have
chat.
we touched on how emotions tend to override intelligence in situations? That's actually a really, really good point to bring up. And I don't think we've touched on that except for our light discussion of emotional intelligence earlier. I mean, I guess self-regulation could, in theory, be part of a generalized intelligence. I could see that. I don't know that any of our current tests that are like the main kind of like psychometrically validated ones accommodate for that. But there certainly are domain-specific tests that test for self-regulation, particularly in, I think, individuals that have disorders that are known to have emotional volatility related to them, you know, particularly certain ends of the autism spectrum and various kind of obviously mood disorders. It's kind of linked right in there, but I don't know that people have examined how much that correlates with intelligence or interrupts intelligence. I am not aware of that research.
Yeah, I would say like emotional regulation is definitely, again, it's like in the same way of like emotional intelligence, it's more personality based, right? So we're talking about, and I think those questionnaires are typically more like you're gonna have like somebody that's close to that person answer and respond in addition to that person, right? Because it's an interpersonal thing, and I'm trying to think of like how it would relate to intelligence. I'm like, I can't really like format it.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, this goes back to something we talked about way back in 2023 and is kind of the drum that I love to bang. And I know that you tend to agree with that, which is we use categorical definitions of things for diagnostic clarity and cutoffs in a society that, you know, determines who gets treatment and who doesn't based on a finite, you know, accessibility sort of a model. But realistically, what tends to be seemingly what actually happens is that there's varying levels of abilities that a person has at baseline as a trait, and then there's what abilities you have that add to that or detract from it based on your state. So you might be a baseline anxious person, but you can also be very anxious because you're being chased by a bear. And if someone asked you to do your multiplication tables, you'd probably shit the bed, obviously, right? So is that because you're not intelligent? Is that because you're, you know, an anxious person? Or is it because you're in a rightfully anxious situation? And the kind of way that I conceptualize this in a broader scheme is each day we wake up probably having a different kind of like, I'm having a low social ability day, I'm having a low you know, intellectual ability day, but I'm having a high emotional ability or something like that day. So I'm really in tune with my emotions. That might actually make it so that I'm very much less able to get through day-to-day tasks like going to work, but you know, you're more in touch with processing your emotions and stuff like that. And though that's not adaptive in a capitalist world, that doesn't mean that it's a disorder, right?
Yeah. I think this actually is like, this concept is like fairly well sort of exemplified in this one of the theories. There's a few different theories of intelligence. So like we showed Gardner's multiple. This is I need to zoom in on this size. Can I see this? Can I see this? There we go. That's not very good. Oh geez, that's terrible. Okay. Bruh. Sorry, and I'm gonna fix. And Alicia's just staring at me like, "What are you talking about?"
I was reading the chat.
Oh yeah, so like, I think what Alicia's saying is like your state and trait emotions, obviously, and environmental context sort of affect this. I think this kind of has a little bit of like this contextual element that we were kind of discussing, right? So there's like these three sort of different elements of intelligence where it's like analytical, so it's like being able to problem solve, creative intelligence of like using experiences to like better, to sort of, I guess it's more of that crystallized intelligence aspect where you're using that sort of like previous knowledge to like implement in these steps. And then the practical intelligence, which is adaptability. Absolutely. And they're all kind of have to do with like troubleshooting and problem solving and sort of these different contextual elements. But yeah, definitely, I agree. I think the emotional state and trait obviously have like a huge influence on that.
Sorry, Hoon does this thing where she like sits over and over again, like she plops down in a very like demanding way, and then just goes at you. She's being
a drama queen, is what you're saying.
Do it for the drama, mama.
Drama.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you about the kind of like analytical and crystallized and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there is one of the kind of like model. I don't know that there's a specific model of intelligence that talks specifically about social intelligence, but I know social intelligence is talked about, like successful.
Yeah, it's one of like Gardner's is definitely on there. It's like interpersonal or something like
that. Sternberg's triarchic model of intelligence, like you were saying, breaks it into analytic, creative, and practical. And focuses on how well someone adapts to real life situations, not just how they perform on tests. It's more ecologically valid, but it's harder to measure reliably and less integrated into standardized testing for obvious reasons, right? And I mean, the other thing is, without like a naturalistic observation sort of testing paradigm, even if you were to try and measure something like this, a social desirability bias would come into play if you were trying to measure this and a person knew that you were trying to measure it, because the way that someone will act in a road rage situation, for example, when they know they're being observed and evaluated on how much they can emotionally regulate versus how much they would actually act like that in their own personal lives, those are like potato dishwasher different, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking at, I want to see if, so there's another, like we've talked about two. We've talked about Gardner. We've talked about Sternberg's theory. There's also Piaget. So if anyone has any sort of.
Boy.
Yeah. If anyone has like ever taken one developmental psychology class, you will.
Because he's developmental stages, right? Is that, am I PhDing
but it's
right? Am I remembering my undergraduate psychology training?
Yes. So the intelligence aspect also kind of comes into play here. Sorry. I hate that it like, I want to like zoom in more, but it's not. Whatever. No, that's terrible. That's worse. Okay. But essentially we have these like stages of development, and I think also like this is also based in like Freud. Like this is adapted from Freud, where Freud was like oral, anal, you have fixation on these like body parts. This is a little bit more like, yes, okay, we have developmental stages and they actually are kind of grounded more in like science.
What would Freud have said about intelligence? Like he would have been like, your intelligence is proportional to your, obsession with dicks. Like really? How much are you into boobs as an adult man?
it's derived from the size of your prostate. Like some bullshit like that. Like
Get out of town. No. Oh, I can't possibly. No.
Sigmund Freud, oui.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it does the ability I'm hearing an echo all of a sudden.
It's coming through Dan's headphones, I believe, because I can hear
Oh no.
volume now, because it's not on his head, I think.
Got it. Okay.
I think I turned it down.
How big is Dan's head? I'm gonna just regret this immediately. How big is Dan's head, and how does that relate to his intelligence, his head circumference?
We were going in a different direction there after talking about Freud, and I was just like, ma'am.
No.
Ma'am.
No.
This is, of course, the part that he is not in the room for.
Of
so
course,
this is hysterical.
I know.
How big is Dan's
Does he
head?
need extra wide headphones like
He's
Sean does?
He's Megamind.
Got
He's
it.
like this fucking
Got
guy.
it.
He's got the cranium on him. Let me tell you.
Got it, yeah.
Hides eyes and ears. Wasn't Sigmund Freud born in the Victorian era? I believe so, but he was German, so... Or Austrian?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Austrian.
Yeah,
Austrian,
sorry,
yes.
my bad.
Yes. Oh, God. Yeah, I think one of the most interesting parts, though, is like if we want to go back to emotions a little bit and that sort of interpersonal thing, it does. One of Piaget's stages kind of does hit on like the building of empathy. There's is it it's, I don't think it's specifically here, but it's like age 7 or 8 or something like that. They are able to like gain the reasoning skills to realize that like their perspective is not other people's perspective. So like the example I always give of this is when we were younger, we were playing hide and seek, and my little sister would like throw a blanket over her head and then say, "You can't see me," and that's like
the object permanence. Nah, girl.
Yeah. Well, literally, she would be like, "Because I can't see you, you can't see me," right? And
I love that for her.
Like. This, yeah, right. I know, it's so funny, but that's sort of like she hadn't quite hit that stage, that also is when they like kids are better understand sharing. They better understand these sort of like empathetic pieces of like, okay, other people have feelings too. It's not just me and my mind. It's like other people in their minds as well.
Yeah.
So I mean that also plays.
That's some deep psychology philosophy.
Yes.
But.
So it definitely gets into that sort of like hits on like emotional intelligence and like if you
because I could hear them. So it's just when you put them on and you're not hearing sound, that's why. Sorry.
No. I was gonna say maybe if like a kid hits that stage a little bit earlier, like they'll end up being more emotionally intelligent. It varies as well, right? So
yeah, and I mean these are like developmental landmarks that you would expect a child to be hitting at a certain kind of age range, and if they don't, then you would be subsequently usually sending them for some sort of cognitive testing or sensory testing, because a lot of the times I think the way that you end up discovering a sensory issue in children that can't communicate with like any large level of clarity is to send them for auditory and visual testing and that sort of thing, right? Because if you can't hear things, and you're not going to respond when you should be, and if you can't see things, etc. But
yeah, Old Man Felonious put something in the chat that's like very interesting. Of like, there's a recent study that determined that we're physiologically 5 stages of brain development: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, early aging, and late aging. And so, yeah, this is like a common myth in like psychology and neuroscience that the brain like stops developing at the age of 25, right? And that's when people sort of like hit this maturity. But it's like that study just stopped measuring at the age of 25, essentially. Like we don't actually know how, and I guess maybe we do now, maybe there's more evidence now, but like the brain continues to develop like through your life and like
it doesn't
neural pruning. Neural pruning, if like you're not using, like if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So if you aren't using like regularly testing cognitive flexibility, et cetera, like you will crystallize and sort of like, get stuck in your mental ways.
Yeah. Bye, Hybrid Robotics, if you're still in here. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate your contributions, and we hope you'll be back. Yeah, I think developmentally, stratifying the cognitive expectations according to like developmental stage is definitely like a pretty safe way to do it. In general, and that like this like object permanence and like perspective taking abilities and stuff like that is nice in that it can span entire, socioeconomic statuses and language barriers and cultural kind of different things. So that is nice. How much those things load on to G factor, like the age at which you got object permanence, maybe are those people that go on to be gifted and have high IQ ranks. Who knows? I mean, there might be research out there that reflects that, and that could be something. I mean, I hesitate to say that even if that was true, it's impossible to know fully whether or not that's a artifact of your environmental upbringing or an artifact of like an ingrained state, potentially genetic kind of component to it. But that's how I feel.
I was gonna say, as we're getting close to wrapping up here, I just wanted to we've talked about intelligence as hilariously, I got this wonderful, it's literally a rainbow brain stress ball that I'm now squeezing as we talk about intelligence.
Rainbow?
A brainbow, yes, exactly. We've talked about intelligence like it is sort of this like fixed thing, right? But there's a lot of like theory and evidence that it's not. It's like it's buildable, and so there's this like mindset theory that's like popularized by somebody named Carol Dweck. And what? He's talking to the dog. And so it's like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, right? And so this is like, if you have a fixed mindset and you think intelligence is inborn, it's uncontrollable, kind of like an external locus of control, essentially. You're like, I can only do as I can do, and if I fail, like this is a reflection of myself, as opposed to a growth mindset where you say, okay, this is a learning opportunity. I have the ability to do better next time by incorporating this into what I know and like growing as a person and growing your intelligence. This is like highly indicative of like success later on. So having a growth mindset is super, super valuable. And it's actually like, you obviously will be more mentally healthy, but then you'll also have like better outcomes as like a student or a worker, whatever.
That's something I can definitely see as being something that's a lot easier to have if you're socioeconomically advantaged, right? Being able to be like, it's all changeable. My destiny is not predetermined by the way that I look, think, walk, talk, or where I was born, or what appendages I have or don't have, or any of those sorts of things, like my gender presentation, shit like that. Like it would be that's something that I think would be inextricably linked to kind of socioeconomic
definitely.
advantage.
I definitely think like it aligns pretty closely with like imposter syndrome, right? Of like, oh, I don't have the skills to be here, like inborn skills, as opposed to I have the like learning potential, the adaptability to like have success in this space, right? So yeah, absolutely. I think that, and like I think imposter syndrome is inherently more common in minority groups and these kinds of things in these higher spaces. So yeah.
Someone asked if intelligence is correlated with happiness, and I actually do not know. But
I believe it has a negative correlation, but that might be pop psychology. We need to maybe look that up.
I think that there's probably like a bimodal sort of thing where if you're on either end of the extremes, that's my hypothesis. The true answer is I don't know. I would have to look into it. Maybe we can do a whole episode on happiness and talk about
you would have to remove socioeconomic status from it, right? And that is a huge, I mean, if you are low IQ and that results in low low socioeconomic status, or vice versa, like that is going to have,
if
poor people who are struggling with money are inherently exactly. Yeah,
there is some degree
going...
of like people want to believe that this like ignorance is bliss, and like would like are people that are intellectually disadvantaged maybe saved from the horrors of the world and that awareness and that sort of thing. But I think that that's frankly like fraught with a whole bunch of issues kind of thing. But I have heard that heuristic. They did talk about it when I was listening to that Lex Friedman podcast, but I didn't actually finish that section because I napped instead. So sorry, I could probably report on that. But...
Oh, apparently, okay. There's a relation. Sorry, really quickly, I'll share my screen with you. There's a 2013 study that like specifically looked at this, I guess. The contribution of SES, obviously, in clinical factors, are independently related to positive health outcomes. Those with lower IQ are less happy than those with higher IQ. But yeah, I would love to be a little brain dead in the current times that we live in. So, you know,
yeah,
but I think that's where it kind of comes from. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that also relates more to like political awareness and you know, worldliness than it does with intelligence, which that might correlate in and of itself. So it might be a modulating factor. Intelligence might be a modulating or mediating factor on happiness or vice versa. But I doubt that there's something that's like rank correlated such that the higher you are on this, the lower you are on this as a straight line correlation. I would be willing to bet that it's...
I would say in crystallized intelligence, that like knowledge and fact stuff would be that staying informed obviously would contribute to that. So I definitely think that there's some piece there. I agree. Yeah. Also, the last thing I want to say when we were talking about imposter syndrome, so I briefly talked about stereotype threat earlier. But stereotype, you know how that like women perform worse on like math tests, and there's like that classic study where they like told a group of women that they were like, you're going to do worse because you're a woman on this math test. And then there was a group that they didn't. And then the people who got told they were going to perform worse did. That the women perform worse on math test gap has been closing. And it's because, isn't that amazing? So, yeah.
Women in STEM.
Women in STEM. Oh.
Apparently, we are supposed to say women in STEAM now. I don't know what the A is. Or maybe it's arts.
It's arts.
Okay, but...
I know. That
just means women in all things. That just means you could just say women, right?
I don't really know why the A people are trying to include the A because I'm like,
clearly us too. I mean, I'm not trying to.
I'm steamed about steam.
Hey, there she is, steaming about steam. I'm steamed up. Yeah. Okay. Should we consider a farewell and a raid out situation?
We raided a couple weeks ago. Did you raid last week when I was?
I did. I was gonna say I did, and then I was like, did I? And then I was like, I did. We don't have to. I am sick, so like frankly, I'm okay.
Yes,
if we don't.
I am fine. But, not as well. I think I just want to like chill. I have like a mental problems today. So
okay. Well, I love you. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of people on. Oh no, wait. Yeah, I do. I have tons of people on. I just don't have the desktop music. Yeah, I don't feel like doing it, frankly.
Did I log out?
I know we're supposed to, but...
it's incognito, that's why. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just gonna go see. Yeah, we should, but also I agree that we can kind of do it on an every other week basis. I'm kind of like, it is always a lot to do it in.
Yeah, it depends who we read into, but science is the only one that always says, like, go do your post-stream stuff, leave. And I'm just like, bless
your soul.
But he's not even, like, channel's live, but they're on starting soon still. So we'd have to wait for a little bit. So I'm not about that. Anyways, okay. Thank you, everybody in the chat. This was a really fun, lively discussion. Please let us know if you guys have topics that you want us to cover, because frankly, we just kind of, like, message each other after the fact and we're like, well, what do you want to do next week? And just kind of roll with whatever our instincts are. We do have a bunch of ideas, but we'd love to do things that our audience likes.
Mm-hmm. So if they have ideas, where would they send that? Do you have a kind of like Dropboxy thing on your, or the Discord? Do we have a Discord channel that we could use?
Yeah, I have a Discord. Oh, I can't type it in there. I have to type it in somewhere else. Hold, please. I think if I go exclamation mark Discord, that it says my Discord thing.
I just see an exclamation point in a Discord,
okay,
but get a grip, drop the link. So
get a grip, you absolute king. Yeah, by all means, go in there, and I think I have a full ass tab for Vulgar Science, sciencey channels. Yeah, there's sciencey channels down at the bottom, and there's a Vulgar Science sub one there. So if you feel like you want to hear more about something, tell us and we'll do our best to get to it, or just pop it in chat here and we'll try to remember with our ADHD and other twice exceptional brains.
many divergences.
Yeah. Multiverse of divergences. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been Vulgar Science with Layla Shode
and Alicia.
Thank you guys for being here.
We live, laugh, love you. See you next week.